a military-industrial complex.
I'm just a patsy.
I have a dream.
I said this once or twice, but it bears repeating. If you like your current insurance, you will keep your current insurance.
You think about the Army and the Navy and the missions they run to protect the world, they run on SAP.
You have done a really spectacular job. I guess pretty much everybody at this table is your customer, so that's not so bad.
Exactly.
I want to congratulate
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you.
And we're back. All three of us.
Hey, everybody.
I have to fix the screen, I just realized.
Okay.
Because
No,
George
it's
and
good.
I normally do this. And then,
Oh, right. I would
know.
go like, wait.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is better, Peter. Look at that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, how you guys doing?
I'm
Doing
great.
good, Peter. Doing good.
Eddie, where are you today?
I'm like 17 feet to your left right now.
Oh, there you are. Over the soundproof booth. Yeah, we're doing some collaboration, Peter. Taking all the treasure trove, the 42 booklets, and the 7 books, and Addy's republishing all of these under the. We're now co-authors, and he's going to publish them on Amazon. Footnotes, links, table of contents, glossary, yes, index. You got everything. So,
Yeah,
plus editor's notes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's terrific. Because I mean, I believe you do all of the work, and I also understand, having spent enough time with you, that you're just go all the time. And so doing all of that stuff like footnoting and linking and stuff like that starts to become, a bit of a chore. But it needs to be done because people who are trying to second guess what it is that you're saying need the ability to go back and see, oh, I guess he knows what he's talking about. And that's the name of the game, I think.
It's a beautiful story. So, yeah, it's all coming true. It's a happy ending. Toto, I think, is pulling or has pulled the curtain back. The Trump memo, the Trump raid, the total disintegration of the FBI counterintelligence team by, I think, just one memo. But we'll find out. We know about the FBI getting fired, getting walked out today. Was it Tybalt or was it Mercutio?
Tybalt.
Tybalt. Okay. I remember there was a play.
Is it Tybalt or Tebow?
Maybe Thibault. Yeah.
Yeah.
But Eddie went away.
But so go smack him on the head or something.
I think he went to go get a full screen for research, but we said it was going to be Shakespeare. We said it was going to end up with a Shakespeare quarrel. The countercheck quarrelsome, wasn't it? And the I can't remember how it all goes, but there's
we've said this for a while that the enemies of the great idea of the United States of America are not a homogeneous block. They're not all unified and they sit together in a cabal. There's actually factions, and there's politics within the bad guys, just as there are politics within anything that we can see.
Yes. Trump did the countercheck quarrelsome, and that's a parry, I think, in fencing. And he just pulled the gate back a little bit on a memo that was top secret, but then declassified. And it's going to be a memo regarding 9/11, the Trump's 9/11, which is going to be the Wuhan Institute of Virology 9/11 memo. And you can read about that on my Substack, Peter.
And Stu Peters read your Substack. It seems.
And he did a great job of boiling me down, synthesizing me. What do you call it?
Synthesizing, yeah.
Synthesizing me.
Yeah.
You might even want to play that. 1 minute where he leads in.
I think I should.
Yeah.
So I can go find it. But so what's the book that you're holding up there, George? While I'm looking for the video.
This is a book that I was given care of, and the owner may think I lost it, but I actually have it in my custody. This is a very rare, hard-to-get book written by Gary Allen. This is the same guy who wrote None Dare Call It Conspiracy. And he died in 86 or so I don't think he minds me promoting the book. But it's very hard to get on Amazon. And the significance of this book is, even though it was written almost 40 years ago, it goes into a lot of the background of Henry Kissinger that's been buried since then. And Heinz Kissinger, yeah.
Yes.
His mother, we can talk about the Stirner Group and the deal they made with the Nazis with the Havari Agreement at some point. But this is an important book because not me, but James Corbett.
His mother was involved with the Havari Agreement?
The Stirner Group. Yeah, Stirner Group. The Ashkenazi Jews, hey, homeland for us.
Right.
Everyone else, we take their
we
money,
take
jewels, paintings,
and we deposit it in the Rothschild Bank in Basel.
Freeport of Geneva,
Yeah.
I think you're going to see is really the place. I think they wanted an outlet to the sea. Basel, there is the Rhine there, but it's awfully easy to cut that off. But we'll see.
He's back.
I'm back, guys. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yep.
Excellent.
Everything okay, Addy?
Yeah, I was trying to make use of my excellent camera on my iPhone 12, but I was having some trouble with the audio. I actually couldn't hear you guys. The speaker on it is not very loud, or I'm having trouble with it, but it's all good now. So thanks for hosting us, Peter.
Well, yeah, very, very good. Well, Johnny Vedmore did a piece on the Duke Report on kind of a deep dive on Henry Kissinger and the origins of the World Economic Forum. And it's interesting because there doesn't, except for Klaus Schwab attending Henry Kissinger's course at Harvard, there doesn't seem to be a direct connection between the two of them. But what Vedmore points out is that the way that they're modeled, the way that they're organized, are so similar that it's difficult because he couldn't find a direct connection. But it's difficult when you look at the way that the two things are organized, not to assume that there was some kind of collaboration there. But he did a good job of laying out as much of a case as he could without actually directly tying them together. So,
well, I mean, there's pictures, a lot of pictures. I wrote a Deep State Made. I wrote a book about them, and there's a lot of pictures of them together collaborating.
Yes.
But I actually went to the spy school in Oberammergau where Henry Kissinger taught and then all the Benassi, Giuseppe, and
is that Dustbin?
Dustbin was in Luxembourg, the capital of Luxembourg. Luxembourg City, I think it is the capital of Luxembourg, right? But this was on the southern border, Oberammergau. That's where I got stopped when I was trying to go to the World Economic, it was a G20 or G7 or G8, I can't remember. But I got stopped on the train. I had started in Oberammergau that morning. And it's not far from Ravensburg, folks. And that train line there was a direct Nazi train line, a gold train to Basel, Bank of International Settlements. So to me, there is a long history there. There's a Club of Rome history with those two that Johnny may or may not have looked into. Johnny, I went to Wales. I went right to the place, the Dolphin Cove, waited for you for 8 hours. I will go again. This time, don't let any interpreters, other people named Webb, get in the way. Just me and you, Johnny. Me and you. Right?
All righty. So, Addy, what have you been up to?
I've been covering Georgia politics heavily for the past few months. And yeah, we'll continue to do so in addition to some other stuff. But yeah, really Georgia politics and Georgia politics.
So what's the latest in Georgia politics?
the latest that nobody's talking about is an article I posted on the 6th of this month. So, what's that? 24 days ago, whereby it was emails were given to me between Raffensperger, his lawyer, and this college professor Joe Rossi, who basically conducted his own audit of the Fulton County's audit, and found verifiable errors that were validated by Governor Kemp, sent to the attention of the Secretary of State Raffensperger. And on the 29th of July, so a month ago yesterday, the attorney for Raffensperger, Ryan Germany, admitted in an email that mistakes were indeed made in that audit in Fulton County in the 2020 presidential election, which to a lot of us listening perhaps is obvious in hindsight, but it's big because they are admitting it that mistakes were made for the first time on paper. So I just want to add, nobody has talked about this anywhere.
No lawsuits, no indictments, no law enforcement investigation.
Nope. No, not even. I mean, at the statewide level, nobody's mentioned it except this one outlet called the Houston Home Journal. I think it's actually Houston Home Journal. And I was actually in touch with. I think I might have actually been in Houston County because I was in Perry, Georgia. Jordan's, forgive me if I got that wrong, but on Saturday, and a bunch of Republicans were there. The governor was there. Governor Perdue was there. Governor Deal was there as well. So. Yeah, it was a lot of heavyweights there in the Peach State, but yeah, nobody's talked about it.
So I think I've asked this question before, but is Kemp related to Jack Kemp?
I don't know. Is he related
Kemp?
to Sean Kemp? Probably not.
I don't know, because Jack Kemp was who Catherine Austin Fitts worked for at HUD, so that's why I was.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I know he's got a history of it comes from a family of political power in Georgia. I'm not too familiar with it. I know there's this family, the Cowserts, that are connected, but all the political heavyweights in Georgia really go through the University of Georgia, and they're Bulldogs, and they go through this fraternity there. So,
yep. George, I have the video, the Stu Peters video queued up. If we want to watch that, okay. So we'll do that, and then
from now on, anytime I say yes, I'll just give you the Kissinger, Club K.
Okay.
I'll just give you the Club K.
The Kissinger of death, the Kissinger of okay.
Club of death.
All right, so here we go. Share screen, tab, Mar-a-Lago, and that works. And then I will make this full. I will play this and make it full screen.
All right, so it's now been 3 weeks since the FBI stormed into Mar-a-Lago to seize documents from President Trump. And in those 3 weeks, of course, we still haven't been told what exactly it was that they were looking for or what remotely justified such an aggressive action. Basically, everybody is just stuck speculating. Our next guest, George Webb, is a journalist. He's authored 7 books as well as several dozen booklets focused on national security. His books and booklets have added up to more than 20 Amazon bestsellers. Well, George has a very fascinating theory about what's really going on with the Mar-a-Lago drama. Webb has argued that the entire COVID-19 pandemic may have been launched intentionally on September 11th of 2019. On that date, thanks to a Defense Threat Reduction Agency whistleblower, we have a U.S. State Department message, a cable about the Wuhan Institute of Virology suffering a cyber attack. Well, for whatever reason, this cyber attack required replacing the Wuhan Institute's air conditioning system, which would provide the perfect chance for an accidental leak of the COVID-19 virus, SARS-CoV-2. 3 days later, President Trump signed an executive order to create a task force for rapidly developing mRNA vaccines, supposedly for the sake of fighting the flu virus. All of this, Webb thinks, may have been a calculated plot to bring down Trump ahead of the 2020 election by derailing the economy with suicidal lockdowns. It was, as he calls it, Trump's 9/11. It's really more than that. It's about 100 9/11s for the entire country. Webb's theory that the documents the FBI is hunting after reveal the truth about COVID-19 and its origins, and President Trump was keeping them as evidence to reveal at just the right moment. George Webb joins us now. George, thank you so much for coming. We appreciate it.
Hey, Stu, I've been on the ground in Mar-a-Lago for 2
we'll leave
weeks,
it right
talking
there.
to everyone.
Okay.
I'm just back. That just kind of like as a great lead-in, and when you can have Stu synthesize for you. But there's not just one person at DTRA. I want to emphasize that there's four. There's four people here. And it involves how you do a live exercise for viruses and vaccines. U.S. State Department, what they do is they send in a person to create a triggering event. Sometimes that's releasing a mock virus. Sometimes it's some very mild virus. Sometimes they do it in the air. Sometimes they do it in the water. Sometimes they do it in the food. But the idea is to create a mild panic. I've called it Clockwork Orange in the past, where you get people to say, hey, we need a response. And that triggers the Defense Threat Reduction Agency for Fort Belvoir to send a germ team in. And then they start collecting biosamples, swabs if it's swabable or schwabable, and blood if it's more of a bloodborne thing. And the blood is the gold standard. And so you need to send
Schwab if it's Schwab and blood if it's Kissinger.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Every time we do Kissinger, we're going to plug the Gary book. And we're going to do a group read of this, by the way. Addy and I are going to do an audio when we go on the road. Our road time will be...
You're going to read it out loud in the car?
Yeah, and I'm going to stop him. And, okay, now, Addy. And we're going to switch off.
Right.
But not there yet.
Producer Carrie and I have been trading off. I read a chapter of Michael Barnes before the algo. I can't remember what it is. Michael Barnes has a book, and then the Pottinger, the Stanley Pottinger book. So we'll each read one chapter at a time. She reads a chapter of Barnes. I read a chapter of Pottinger. She reads a chapter of Barnes. I read a chapter of Pottinger. That's the way we're doing it.
Well, it makes for a great loving relationship because you can look at, and get feedback as you go, and it's not TV, so it's actually interactive. So I do that. Anyway, this I think is going to be the biggest story of this year. It's going to easily eclipse midterm elections. And we saw the first detritus or the first fallout, the first corpse, if you will, with Thibault, not Mercutio. We're going to see Mercutio go too, but we got Thibault.
Are they hiding behind the curtains?
You never want to be in, like you said, in the sword fight early in a Shakespeare.
Right.
You always want to be at the end.
You want to be the last guy.
With the poison tips,
Right.
But we've seen the first Thibault, and I do believe a Mercutio is about ready to fall here as well. But we'll see. But let's see. Thursday is the big special master, which is an independent arbitrator, and that if we get
as long as it's not Kenneth Starr.
Well, we actually Harry the Greek did a story where he believed it was Kasowitz, not another K. We have Kissinger, we have Club K, we have Klaus, right? But,
is that the steganography? I mean, Dark Journalist is very heavily into the X steganography. I guess maybe, George, what you're saying is there's K steganography.
I'm not a big steganography guy, but but he did bring. Now remember, this is a longtime guy for Trump. He's bringing in way back to the casino days, bringing in Ukrainian crime gangs, into the casinos, and so this guy's got Kasowitz has a long history with the little Ukraine criminals in Florida and New York, So what does he do? He signs Kolomoisky and Korf, two international criminals, Ukrainian crime game criminals with the Azov Brigade. He signed these. Now, is that not the way to hide a bribe? I mean, a big bribe. And if Kasowitz, what Harry is saying, I don't know if it's going to be true or not, but they actually had a case adjudicated by the Supreme Court, Korf and Kolomoisky, about removing the precedent law for a special master and allowing filter teams to be okay. As a later precedent, a 2009 precedent case to eclipse Trump's case that he's quoting, which is a 2006 case, United States versus Stewart. So we'll see if Harry the Greek is prescient.
So if Harry is correct, then they'll be able to block the special master request?
It means Kolomoisky and Korf, the two guys running the bioagents program in Ukraine, will be able to say, oh, here's a bioagents in Ukraine memo. we're not going to have that. We're going to tear that up. We're going to, no, there won't be any George Webb memos. No. Oops, that's important. That was into the jaws of NATO. But that's the idea: is if Kolomoisky and Korf run this thing,
There's a printer in the business center.
okay. But there's what's his name, Heinz Feldman, Ukrainian general who did all the training for the Ukrainian army. We can't have that going over to the Trump trial and them doing no. You get the idea. A special filter team, if it's Korf and Kolomoisky, is not going to be good for Trump and not what we want. We want an independent
or their agents and assigns, right? Because it's not going to be them there. It's going to be their Harvard Law School cutouts.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's why I have Addy do all the big signatures, for the high dollar.
I'm sorry, I missed that. That went over my head. What are you referring to?
They're saying that the people, Peter's saying that Kolomoisky won't sign and say we're going to disallow the Heinz Feldman training our troops with bioweapons. We're going.
No, I got that. Your metaphor, I didn't.
We're going to have an assistant sign off. And so I was saying, for any big dollar item on our trip here, I have you sign off. I know it's poor.
Oh,
Jeff.
yes. I got you. Yeah.
Because Addy has the black American Express card. Is that what you're saying?
He has the Mossad press. I don't have it.
We're joking right now, people.
We're joking. We're joking. Yeah. It's like.
I'm throwing the ball over to you now, Addy. That was my feeble attempt to throw the ball to you.
Oh yeah, sure. I'm not gonna lie. This is your kitchen, George. I can tell you some weird stuff about Georgia politics, though. But I gotta say that the crime in Atlanta and New York is off the charts right now. As is Philadelphia. Philadelphia actually may be the worst, perhaps at this moment. Not to switch lanes entirely, but I did start the Kissinger book. I read the first 2 chapters. It takes a while to, get introduced to Kissinger in the book, but it's quite amazing. This author, he was decades ahead of his time.
Yeah, just to follow up, we'll probably start on chapter 3 because I don't think the word Henry Kissinger or Kissinger is mentioned until the last page of the second chapter. And the first 2 pages is, hey, we're giving all of our secrets to Russia to create a sort of a Rothschild teeter-totter and, balance of power.
Yeah, so Kissinger is basically portrayed himself during that time period to be fiscally conservative, politically conservative, but secretly was pushing all these Marxist activities and Marxist groups as well. But he wrote this treatise on nuclear weapons that caught a bunch of people's attention. But still, I think we discussed today, George, both of us contend he's the most powerful non-elected bureaucrat or federal agent, whatever you want to call him. And still might be that guy, and probably is.
Well, there's consensus on that. I mean, all of us tinfoil hat aficionados out there in the world seem to have one thing in common, and that's Henry Kissinger.
Yeah. If there's anything we can agree on, right?
Right, exactly. I mean, Whitney Webb, Brendan O'Connell, Ryan Dawson,
Sean Atwood. Go down the list.
Sean Atwood.
I try to be friends with everybody, guys. I try to be friends with everybody. I know not everybody likes George, but I try to be cool with as many people as possible. So
yeah, I know, and we've gotten a couple of emails and comments this week. There's a comment on the Duke Report. It's like more voices, not less, is what we need. And anytime somebody's trying to cleave us apart and create kind of derision between any of us, I just see that as kind of either uninformed or somebody's trying to create drama where there isn't any. And we all get along. We're all happy campers here.
Everybody you mentioned there, I feel great about, and we want to support all their work. So I don't know anybody we just talked about that I don't love and watch. Maybe Brendan O'Connell, just because he doesn't know him and he feels like he, has to talk about me a lot. But
Does he? I haven't
I,
heard him.
I
Yeah,
think he
yeah, he's-
actually regards you positively, if I recall.
he's probably through his Mossad phase. Everybody has to go through their Mossad phase, and then they realize I just got a few emails in the summer of 2017, and then they're okay with me. But they're suspicious of me until they go through that Mossad phase. But yeah, I think all those folks are trying to do the right thing, and none of them are controlled opposition or anything like that. And we need to put a mosaic together with all of our information. James Corbett, did a great job on this book. But there are some things in here, especially like you said, this connection between Klaus and Kissinger and this whole Nazi diaspora that's leaving Europe at that time, and their money and wealth that's leaving the time. And you needed to have a factory.
Their money.
Oh, well, the stolen money, yeah.
Yeah.
And you needed to have a factory where a bunch of people could get work visas that could go across and work on the other side in Switzerland. And I showed you the ferry boat, and I went across back and forth across the lake. And, why didn't it get bombed again toward the end of the war and all these things? But there is really good, strong connections there. So, and I wrote a couple of Substacks about it, and if people want to see that. But hopefully, as Addy and I go through this Kissinger thing, other people will see the pieces start to fall in.
Yeah, it's interesting too. I mean, this may be off topic, but you were in Switzerland and you were talking about it. Switzerland is a really, really weird place. If you think about it, it's in the middle of Europe, but by convention, all for 500, 900 years, all of the warring parties in Europe have agreed that they would stay out of Switzerland, that they wouldn't deal with Switzerland. And Switzerland has had this kind of like very interesting relationship with not only the countries around Switzerland, but the whole world. The Bank of International Settlements is sovereign in that they are not accountable to any government, except they are within the confines of Switzerland, and so the country of Switzerland has a certain amount of control over them. But mostly it's hands off, and I just find that to be really kind of unique and fascinating, because what is the when I've read the book The Power of Basil, it starts to become obvious that having a place where people can keep their money that they've taken from other places and put it someplace seems to be a very important concept, but it's universal in its acceptance. Everybody goes, okay, well, we'll just put it in Switzerland and nobody's going to mess with Switzerland. Why doesn't anybody mess with Switzerland?
It's very bizarre when you think about it in terms of human nature, self-interest, and history. It reminds me of Game of Thrones. It's like Tywin says, we all live in the shadow of the bank, but nobody realizes it really. It's like, why don't they just go and with swords and go up to the bank and take the money? It's kind of a similar concept. Yeah, it's kind of bizarre when you think about it.
Yeah. If you look at the Rome being on a river and all easily conquerable. And you start going up into the Alps, the Italian Alps, near Lago di Como, or
I love Como.
Yeah, it's beautiful. But that's where you hide the gold. So Switzerland, I think, has had a long history of that, hiding the gold. And BIS, comes right out of that, because you had to have somebody on the French side and the German side launder all the German gold. I mean, all that Nazi gold, they didn't have any problem. They said, "Oh well, we'll bring our guy in. We can get that double eagle off, no problem."
Right. And the president of BIS at that time was an American, a guy named McKittrick. So,
right. Wow.
Well,
wow,
and Dulles handpicked him, but I'm just saying that.
Oh, of course, yeah. Dulles was in Bern, wasn't he?
It's easy to take gold watches and stuff that people give the church and melt that gold down into a gold bar, and then take the double eagle and melt it into candelabras or whatever. it's a switch.
Crosses.
Just gypsy switch. Yeah, gold plate. So there is but that is what the Vatican did for the Nazi gold, and it's what BIS did. They asked no questions.
It's
Fascinating.
Yeah,
Fascinating stuff.
it's fascinating, but again, the BIS is sitting in Basel, Switzerland. So the BIS is sovereign. They're sitting inside Switzerland, which is sovereign and neutral, and everybody agrees to allow Switzerland to be neutral, and that helped facilitate, IG Farben and Standard Oil, and getting all of the fuel, because a lot of people don't realize that. The Nazi war machine was running on Standard Oil and Ford trucks, and that if that wasn't all being facilitated through Switzerland, that none of that would have happened. The Hitler wouldn't have been able to prosecute that war if Standard Oil and Ford weren't providing all of the trucks and fuel that was required.
And this is where Eugene Schwab comes in, because he was originally from the Basel area and Swiss, and gave up his Swiss citizenship, I think, to become German, and had business interests. Sulzer, Bingham had interests. Escher Weiss, Sulzer had interest in Switzerland as well. So if I have a workman who's doing something important, this is a fake picture.
Is it?
That's not Eugene.
This was my first question. I haven't showed it to anybody yet because somebody sent me this.
Yep.
And I thought I have to ask George if this is real or not. Okay, so this is fake.
Yep.
Okay, this is fake, everyone.
But if you look up Eugene with no E on the end, and you do his Red Cross to Brazil, you look at his Red Cross passport that he has to Brazil when he was doing his medal hunting in Brazil for war medals. That's an interesting one, and that is authentic. So the whole picture we've been painted as, hey, there's just a guy over here who's Hitler's top contractor for making flamethrowers. That's all. No. He was the nozzles for the flamethrowers requires investment casting. It's very specific, but so does power plant.
He made the big turbines for the hydroelectric plants,
and they went right into nuclear turbines right after World War II, and also centrifuges also used nozzles.
And just for people who don't understand, boiling water is all of these things boil water. Right? Nuclear power plants boil water. GE two-stage gas turbines that provide the electricity, the clean energy electricity for major cities around the world. All of these things work by taking heat and boiling water, turning it into steam, and the steam pushes the turbines spin, and then they create electricity. So boil water, make electricity, and Escher Weiss was right at the forefront of that kind of technology.
And the new innovation is boiling salt. You know, Gandhi went to the Ganges, right? And he said, I'm going to make salt, right? And like, okay, that's going to really be an advancement, for India. But no, we boil salt in the molten salt reactor that Bruce Orr's dad worked on at Oak Ridge National Laboratories. And that is the new Sulzer Bingham impeller blade for, and this is the one Bill Gates is pushing, the boiling salt small modular reactor. And you're going to see a lot of those. And they're beautiful for putting in remote mining and remote drilling applications. No cord needed, right? No solar panel needed, and you can bury it. So you can steal a bunch of uranium or plutonium or whatever left over from the Cold War, and we can drill to our heart's content.
And it's funny too, because it's energy. We think of energy, we kind of take energy for granted, but energy is the reason why we can do most of the things that we can do. It's the reason that we can create drugs. It's the reason we can light our house. It's the reason that we can move water from one place to another. And so at the end of the day, energy becomes the most important thing. So it's easy to demonize like big oil or something like that. But, the reason money is called currency is because it's a reflection of energy, right? That's being transferred from one person to another.
I did not know that. I will say Gorbachev died.
Yeah,
right.
Yes, he did. Yep.
And if you go back, I'm interviewing a Secret Service guy in Annapolis, and I'm saying that Condoleezza Rice on the encrypted BlackBerry phone spoke directly to Putin in Russian on the State Department phones. I wonder if all arms negotiations like SALT and SALT II, remember Rodney Fisk, a South African who all of a sudden gets 20,000 nuclear warheads from Russia? Why are we going through South Africa, a rogue nation, to negotiate that treaty with the United States to move megatons to megawatts, right? But what were they negotiated on? What was the fall of the Soviet Union negotiated on? The BlackBerry, eventually in 98 or so. Before that, it was called the KL-43. Gorbachev's surrounding people probably used the Ollie North KL-43. But it is fun to track these encryption devices. And isn't it interesting when the biolab information starts popping up in memos out at Trump Mar-a-Lago, Gorbachev dies. Remember, Gorbachev was there the night Mike Flynn sat next to Putin when they were trying to set him up and Trump up. Gorbachev was invited. He was there at that night.
Well, in Brendan O'Connell's video that's on the Duke Report now, 152, he says that Putin was actually handpicked by Kissinger, I believe.
I think that's true. And he was a young global leader for Klaus Schwab.
For Klaus Schwab, yeah.
And it wasn't really, Johnny probably covered this, but it wasn't the World Economic Forum back then. It was something like the European Council of Vendors. It didn't have this worldwide concept. It was a European council, primarily to hide dealing nuclear material to South Africa and other rogue nations. The main providers, if you look who sat on that originally, were all the nuclear people. France was big in nuclear. Areva, Urenco was huge in Holland and Germany and England. And here's Klaus Schwab making the plasma, now the plasma stuff. Hey, we don't want to get sanctioned and lose all of our business with everybody else. Let's create an economic council, right? And that's in my book, Schwab Me No More, which Addy Adds is rewriting.
Yes, this is true. So be on the lookout for that, folks. Lots of publishings coming out constantly over the next few weeks. So it's gonna be great. 70 days to midterms for those that care. I know a lot of people in this space have given up on the electoral process, but I do feel it's important to go through the motions. I had this idea that one could shepherd the flock of the United States to philosophically evolve from Democrats to Republicans to Libertarians, perhaps, such that whether or not you agree with libertarian philosophy, we have a strong third party. And I do got to say, a lot of my personal philosophies do align with a lot of libertarian thought, although I've been described as conservative. There you have it.
Well, I've been listening to Matthew Arrett has been doing a lesson. He basically has a course, and if you pay him, you can be in the chat, and then later on, a few days later, he releases the video, and you can watch it. So I've been watching this video with it on what he's calling Alexander Hamilton's American system of economics, and it's fascinating. And what they're going over in the latest video is I can't remember when it was published, a paper by Lyndon LaRouche when he was running for president. And it's very technical. I mean, it gets very into math because Lyndon LaRouche was, fundamentally a mathematician who was applying his math skills to economics. And, I like to think that there's really kind of two kinds of forces that are, if I wanted to be reductionist, fighting right now, and that's globalists versus Americans. And I mean Americans like with a capital A, like not just a country, but the idea of Americans is is that what we're trying to always do is balance individual liberty with the general welfare, right? And like, how do you do that? Like, how do you manage that stuff? And that's what the whole system is basically set up for. And the problem that I have with Republican or Democrat or Libertarian or any of those things, it's like, how about just American? How about just like, we're trying to figure out a way to balance general welfare and individual liberty, and because it seems like any of these parties want, and how I'm differentiating it is that let's base it on ideology. And when I say ideology, I don't mean like abortion is wrong or wars are wrong. Those things wind up becoming these bifurcating issues that split everybody up into two convenient groups of people that are easily manipulated using, money, ideology, compromise, coercion, ego, energy, and family in order to kind of, push the scale one side to the other, always giving people two choices for when there's an infinite number of solutions. But why are we always given two or three? And in the case of the libertarians, what winds up happening is that they wind up, if you only have three parties, then they wind up being the spoiler for one side or the other, right? They take enough votes away from one side that you can push the other side up. So you still have like this two-party system. We're stuck with this Republican-Democrat thing, which I think is ultimately compromised because it's reinforced by the media. The media tells you that you only have two choices. Tucker Carlson tells you only have two choices. Rachel Maddow tells you only have two choices. And it's like, no, there's more than two choices, and there's more than three. And if we start thinking about ideas instead of parties, and we start thinking about what we can do ourselves instead of who is our latest comic book superhero that we're going to vote for because they're going to come and take care of all of our problems for us, then I think that maybe we can save ourselves. And I'm all about saving ourselves. I'm not looking for anybody to save me.
How do we do that, Peter, concretely?
Let me tell you who my superhero is.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. Very, very, very small dog. I've had so many arguments about what breed Toto is. People say he's Yorkshire Terrier. Somebody else says he's an Irish Wolfie miniature. You get the idea. All we need is a very small dog who knows how to clamp onto a curtain, because the big show that you're seeing up there on the screen is all bullshit, right? You've got to go to the to the deep hand, and Toto's my hero, has been for a long time, since the movie came out.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we should just start the Toto party, and it's all about transparency everywhere. It's like
I like the metaphor, guys. I love it. But
yeah, and the reason why it's so beautiful,
no and what concretely, what are we gonna do?
Well, I'm telling
besides
you,
watch Wizard of Oz.
Go back to my phone call with Donnie O'Sullivan and look at how a Clockwork Orange is done, how you take down a president, how you ruin an economy, how you ensure mail-in voting. You need one Virginia Benassi to send a triggering email. I started talking about Virginia Benassi with Donnie. He cut me off. He didn't want to talk about any of the other ones. And then two, you need to send a State Department team from Fort Belvoir. I don't know if there was any State Department teams there with the last name Benassi or not. Actually, I do. So that's how you do this. That's how they're controlling the world. And you don't even have to go to another last name, right? You're done, right? And you have one email that generates this 911. And
okay. And
right?
how are we going to get that email from the FBI, George?
I already know it. It's benassib@who.int. Trump says it, we're done. Trump says it, deep state gone. Total crater and cave.
Okay.
If he says the name Virginia Benassi, that also goes deep state, total cave. I'm not talking about Tybalt and Mercutio. I'm talking about Touchstone. Remember, you guys may remember Touchstone was a fencer.
He wasn't he a joker or jester? Or?
He was a jester. I'm sorry, but he did make this fencing speech, and that's why I throw him in here.
Who was the Tybalt? I missed that when I was getting my camera ready. Who was the first Tybalt?
I might be wrong on Tybalt.
Well, you're calling it. Well, Tybalt is in the Shakespeare play.
Yeah,
Just
you're
for-
mixing stories,
ju-
George.
ju-
I was
ju-
just wondering who you're comparing to.
Just to be clear, the guy's name was Tebow, I believe.
No, it was Tybalt.
Was it Tybalt?
T-Y-B-A-L-T. Yeah, T-Y-B-A-L-T. I actually got cast as Tybalt once.
Okay. No, in Shakespeare it's Tybalt.
Yeah, in Shakespeare.
But the FBI agent, I think, was Tebow.
Oh, Thibault. But I always give
okay,
him
I
I see the
nicknames.
connection now. Okay,
You
Yeah,
there we
can't,
go.
you can't forget them, right? But at the end of this thing, you're going to have the last scene of Hamlet here. Everybody's going to be dying everywhere. Struck here, struck there.
It's gonna be a Tarantino movie, basically.
It's going to be a Tarantino ending.
Yeah.
And as soon as this memo comes out, because as soon as people ask, and then they get to that email and say, "Show me that email," which Trump may or may not have declassified. Oopsie. It's over. Deep state done. And now we have our democracy back. So send Trump. Okay,
Republic.
Send
We have
Trump.
we have
my
our
last
Republic
Substack.
back.
We're done. But I mean, I think anybody who says this incredibly economic, simple, I can do it without even like lifting a finger with my phone. Anybody who comes up with a solution like that, I'm ready to listen. So if somebody thinks that we should get a Great Dane to pull the curtain back, and you can train a Great Dane or a German Shepherd, I'm all ears. But doesn't it make sense? I mean, look at a Shakespearean conspiracy, for instance, right? And let's take that whole situation at the wedding and the play at the end of Hamlet. There's only a couple of bad actors here in the conspiracy. It's not everybody watching the play is a bad actor. You don't need to kill everybody. You just need to get the bad guys.
I want to. You mentioned something, George. I think it's a great idea. I want to show some public love to John Frederick's conservative radio talk show host, who I went on a bus tour with covering the primaries, and he said, "We can do it. We have a phone." I'm paraphrasing. He's like, "We don't need anything else because we have a phone and we have a pencil." So,
Well,
as
yeah,
long as you have
because Barack Obama said that he had a phone and a pen. Right?
oh, is it a pen? Is it a pen?
Barack Obama said that he had a phone and a pen.
Okay. Well,
So
I mean, that's basically what George just said, right? Yeah, he has a phone and he can write on it, right? So, I mean, he's probably a smart guy, right? He's pretty smart.
I don't think you become president of the United States without being smart.
Yeah, I'm just saying he's smarter than like Joe Biden, for example, even in his prime, I would say.
I think that in his prime, Joe Biden was probably a very crafty guy.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
Modus operandi here, guys, is I'm Mike Flynn, and I take the phone at Mar-a-Lago. Remember, I can't have a precedent for a raid at Mar-a-Lago unless I'm at Mar-a-Lago, which he wasn't at Christmas time. Thanksgiving. And now I start going bing, 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 bing to who? The Russian ambassador Kislyak. About what? The response, right, to, I can't remember the DNC break-in. They were going to send all the Russian, and the end of the year, last day of the year, they sent all the Russian diplomats back. Obama did. And now who is at Mar-a-Lago going bing, 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 when we know Trump is going to be there between Christmas and the New Year break, right? And that's how the original Crossfire Hurricane gets going. The second one with the dossier. Here we go. This is the winner. And it's lovable. And we can sell the mascot. Oh.
Yes. So we have to. So Toto is going to save us, George. It's going to be people pulling the curtains back and revealing the deep state for who it is.
Yeah, and I did this on air with Donnie. And I said, I only need two people and I only need one last name. I didn't even need to buy a vowel here, Donnie. Right? I went through the person who was the innocent person, the victim, and then I was going right into the trigger saying it's going to be Virginia Bonassi, the DTRA memo on September the 11th, and it's going to cause a lot of alarm inside the Trump campaign. What? What was hacked on September the 11th? That sounds like terrorism to me, Donald Trump says, right? And maybe it's going to be a flu that's released because everybody's afraid of the flu from China. So 3 days later, what does he do? He signs the executive order for flu. Little do we know. Who's the guy in Merchant of Venice? I can't remember. No, Othello. He's
yeah, I
the,
know who you're talking about.
always behind the curtain. You know, always,
Mordecai, is that his name?
Somebody in the chat will tell us.
yeah, but Trump doesn't know about
He's
coronavirus.
he's the person.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't want to say the description.
Trump doesn't know about coronavirus, we say as an aside, and we got coronavirus coming, don't we, guys? Because I'm the guy who released it in China in 2003 in my hotel, and people still haven't figured out that, and I'm on the National Security Council. And people, you said LaRouche earlier, guess who Lyndon LaRouche said tried to kill him? Kissinger and Stanley Pottinger, the father, like son.
And that's the F that the CIA leaves out of their mice. Because the CIA in all of their briefings, they say that the way that you spread influence is money, ideology, compromise, coercion, ego, or energy. But they leave the F off. They leave the family or bloodline.
Probably the most important one.
Look at the Dulles brothers.
Yeah.
Come on.
I think family is. I don't need anything other than the F.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah.
I'll throw a new one out. You may remember 2008.
Shylock, by the way.
Shylock was Merchant of Venice.
Yeah.
The pound I'll take will be your heart. Oopsie. I guess a pound of flesh really can matter, right? But no, the one behind the curtain in Othello that was always.
I don't know that one very well.
But I love it though, Addy. You got Shylock right. I
googled it, George.
Oh, you googled it. But just family connections. I was out there and I said 2 Strucks, like 2 households of initial speech of Romeo and Juliet. 2 Strucks visited the National Security Council in the basement of the National Security Council in the midnight hours. Is there a song there? In 2017 and 2016, or 2015 and 2014. I can't remember, but it was 2 years in a row. Who are you briefing down there at that late hour? And it's not Peter Strzok. It's these 2 other Strucks. The one guy was a Coast Guard officer in Houston. I wonder if those guys know what's happening down at the Galveston Biolab. That's right there where Virginia Benassi worked at. And the other gal was a Navy corpsman, and Taggart's wife, and Sarah Strzok. Well, we've talked about it for 5 years now that the catcher's mitt for oxygen in your blood is called the heme, right? And heme deformities make it so your blood can't carry oxygen. We talked about sickle cell anemia. Guess who does heme deformities? There's only 100 Strucks in America, folks. Sarah Strzok. Isn't it comforting to know Sarah Strzok? Now, it could be a total, coincidence, but there's only 100 Strucks. How many people are doing heme deformities? The bioweapon we said the last 4 years was going to be the target. Sarah Strzok and Devin Strzok. Devin Strzok is, I looked at him. He was at Rigetti, I think. Rigetti was doing NASA contracts, all these deep state NASA contracts. They were bringing all this blood back to Fort Scott. Now, let's see. I think I know another Benassi that worked at Fort Scott where they brought blood back for the NATO blood program. Let's see. You all went to Wuhan, and then you all went back with 6,000 samples of blood to Fort Scott. Okay. We'll leave that for the next show.
The cliffhanger.
I'm just saying, why do you need all this blood? You only need 1 or 2 vials of blood if you're like a hemophiliac.
Sure.
Right? And if you look at the blood work that Sarah Strzok does, it's called porphyria. And porphyria, you make, is the purple, when the royals got the purple look to them because they had poor oxygenation in your blood because their hemes were deformed. Right? Porphyria. She studies literally the disease that blue bloods get.
It's because they're lizards.
No, let's not go there because that's when things just completely go off the rails, right? Because that
was a great Q session we just had, guys.
No, it's not porphyria. I'm telling you, she does porphyria. I mean, there's probably everybody running around here, a lot of hairdressers that, hey, also on the side, I'm a PhD with blood heme disorders, and I have the same last name as Peter Strzok, and It just happens to be porphyria. Do you think those folks that have been interbreeding in that black nobility down that Savoy nobility there by Geneva, do you think they might want to breed porphyria out of their bloodline at some point, or just keep that going?
Can't you just use CRISPR to fix it?
Well, you can, and that's interesting. I'm sorry, I'll stop.
That's okay.
But the clotting factor, is called von. Is that royalty? Von Wiedenbrand.
Actually, Von is royalty. That's what Von means.
Von Wiedenbrand factor, VWF factor. Okay, which acts like a rubber band protein, and it goes around when you have a bleed and kind of stops the flow so that your platelets can start accumulating.
Right.
Guess what coronavirus has? What it's causing? It's causing an excess. This is Addy and I interviewed the guy yesterday. An excess of VFW or VWF, von Willebrand factor, causing constriction points, causing platelets to build, causing things like myocarditis and clotting.
Fascinating.
I could use the same thing that makes us royal, that fixes us, to get rid of you with von Willebrand factor.
Wouldn't that be ironic? Right?
There's a song there. Isn't it ironic? But isn't it the perfect turnaround, the perfect twist in this whole big Manhattan project that we've been using our EU money for, so that we get rid of our porphyria, right? Now gets pumped back into a bioagent to take down people like you and me and Addy, Peter. How are all these 25-year-olds having these heart attacks?
Right.
Yeah, according to a recent report, actually 2 days ago, over 50% of Big Ten athletes have myocarditis.
50%?
Oh, yeah, north of 50% of Big Ten athletes.
That tennis player, the woman tennis player.
50. That is.
Yes.
Myocarditis used to be like less than 1% of, and I know from personal experience that in Holland, for example, where intravenous drugs are legal, that people who are intravenous drug users who had hepatitis and all the other kinds of diseases that you get from sharing needles with other people, that I think Holland had the biggest, had more myocarditis than any other country, and it was being caused by the fact that intravenous drugs were legal there, but still, 50%. That's beyond an epidemic. That's beyond a pandemic.
It's a culling. It's called a culling. That's what it's called.
Yeah, I mean, and what's the citation for that, Addy?
That was actually Last American Vagabond, one of their channels, because I think they actually lost their channel recently. But it was an interview with, I think Robert Malone was actually interviewing somebody else, this expert, according to TLAB.
Okay.
I'll put the link in the chat right now in case people want to see it. But it's been making the rounds on Twitter since 2 days ago.
Well, that's huge. I mean, 50% of college athletes have myocarditis.
Look at the soccer players keeling over all over everywhere.
The videos, yeah, it's crazy. They just like flop like fish, or like some refs too. I saw some refs just keel over, and it looks like, forgive me, people, Harry Potter, when they petrify him, bang.
If you put a whole bunch of rubber bands right on your aorta, and you create a constriction, and it's just tight, and all of a sudden you put a huge load on it, your body cannot catch up. You're starving yourself. So you keep pumping your blood, but you don't oxygenate your blood. So you keep basically suffocating yourself by pushing out blue blood.
Yep.
And
that's why the ventilators, again, lest we forget, as I shake my camera out of anger, all those old people died because of that reason, because they were actually making it worse.
Yeah, you can tune an oxygen level concentration down so low that the recirculating air has got so much carbon dioxide in it, it suffocates them. And most of, like you say, most of the deaths were from maybe not remdesivir, because the cohort treatment with it was the oxygen tent, the little mini Auschwitzes.
Yeah. Shout out to Governor Cuomo for being a very well effective commandant of his I don't know the German, I forgot the German word for his concentration camp up there. We're at an hour though, guys. I have to go finish. I got to go back to writing, unfortunately.
Yeah, it has been an hour.
Yeah.
Here's the.
Well, finish Schwab Me No More now that we're on. No, I'm kidding. And you got to finish Citizen Journal. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes,
no.
yes. Okay.
Here's the TLAV. Okay, so
Okay, yeah, I'll stay for this. Here we go.
Anyway, I just pulled this up in case anybody wanted to go fact check us and take a look at this. It'll be interesting to see what YouTube does with this video. Again, I don't know if you noticed, but when we did on our episode that we called The Usual Suspects, we got slapped with inappropriate for children tag that forces people to click a button before they can watch the video. It kills the thumbnails and it forces people to push a button that says, I understand that the content is not for children under 18. And I was just trying to figure out anything that we talked about, George, in that last video where we were talking about stuff that was inappropriate for people under 18.
We talked about Toto, and Toto is a naked 3-year-old. I mean, just saying.
Has fur, though.
I know, but when they send in their complaint,
furry.
they say, "I saw a naked 3-year-old in Peter." They'll do the same thing for this video, and then some. What they do is they immediately slap it when they hear, "Oh, naked 3-year-old," and then they look at it and go, "Oh, they're talking about Toto." So if you're out there at YouTube, remember, human versus animal, big difference.
All right, terrific. Well, with that, guys, if unless anybody's got any questions.
Eddie and I are doing this tour, and I'm trying to get him up the East Coast. I'm trying to go south. We want to split here, but I will take him to New York. But if somebody would help him get a ticket, he needs to go do 2 big stories, big. One's an immigration story, where they're letting all these people off the bus. Get this, everybody. They come across the border, illegal. I'm sorry, they're, what are they, undocumented immigrants? No, wait, undocumented something.
Sanctuary citizens.
Yeah, but when they take the bus to get to New York, when they get off the bus, they're illegal immigrants. The mayor of New York, governor of New York, hey, we don't want illegal immigrants. But
What's crazy is to get insurance in New York, all you need is a mailing address. So you just, as long as you have somewhere you can send mail with your name on it, you can get insurance.
So Addy has that story he's waiting to do, and then he's also wants to do a story in Manhattan.
Some crime stuff, as I mentioned.
So what's the best way for people to support you, Addy?
Buymeacoffee.com/Addy Adds, ADDYADDS.
Send it to me, actually, because I'm subsidizing stuff. No, I'm
well, this is true. Or send it to George.
No.
Although George is leaving tomorrow.
I do owe you 5 coffees, George, because somebody gave me 10 coffees and told me to give you 5. Because
that was actually me that gave him, because I wanted to ensure 5 more WordPress editing sessions. I told Addy, I said, the same thing you told me. How do I never work again or worry about a job again and learn what WordPress?
Well, no, I said, how do you not have to look for work? I didn't say not work. I said, how do you not have to look for work? Work will come find you. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. And is that true? Still?
I still think that WordPress is the way to go. Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
So I said, Addy, if you never want to look for work again, WordPress, baby.
Okay, I'm back to writing, guys. So next week or this week or.
All right, and if you need any website help or WordPress help or any of that stuff, like, let me know and I'll rig you.
Yeah, definitely. Let's do it. I mentioned about possibly going to Cali, but George is Florida bound, so
yeah.
There you have it.
Well, it's a special master.
I will take Addy if there is no other way to get him there. But we're looking at a car here. We're looking at a lot of different things. So I want him to do these stories because they're big opportunities. They're big stories for big publications.
Yeah, we're gonna do that, or we're gonna move to Mexico. So, until next time.
Yeah. Addy has just left the building.
I think he gets disgusted with me, and you can see why. But
You think?
yeah, well, actually, it's not so bad. We're kind of doing this Tommy Boy thing, and everyone thinks, oh, this must be like 5 hours. Addy has to endure this. But
Okay.
that's not true. I don't really talk that much, and Addy types a lot
Right.
on his thing, and when his laptop runs out of power, he types on his phone, and
Right.
so he actually gets a lot done while moving. Uh-oh, here we go. What is this?
I suggest numbering the Webb Adds books in order of publication so we know if we have we've collected the whole set. Just a numeral on the spine or something like that. Yes, it's all of the synthesis stuff. Yeah, these are good ideas. These are really
Yeah, that's
good
a great
ideas.
idea. We'll do it in the order of publication, so this will be number one coming your way.
Right. And if you have no other place to write these suggestions down, if you go to the open thread on the Duke Report and say, suggestions for George Webb books, I will make sure that George sees those suggestions that are on that comment thread.
And Peter,
Yes.
let's talk about T-shirts for a second, just so because producer Carrie will be happy if we talk about T-shirts.
Well, I think that we've sold a few T-shirts this week, and I put some new designs up, and I'm at a loss because I'm not thinking about T-shirts often when I'm talking to you, so I'm just going to take a look at what it is that I've created. It's funny. I created. Oh yeah, we do have a new T-shirt. I'll show you. Share screen. Here we go. Some people had suggested that they liked the tagline of the Duke Report, which is "All news is made up. Some of it is true." And so we have a new T-shirt that's just our tagline, and it has the Duke Report very small underneath at the bottom there. So that's new in the store. And then it's funny because a lot of the designs that I try to put up on Spreadshirt, they're my vendor. They find somehow reprehensible. But here's a new one that we've got, which is the 7 Deadly Sins shirt, which is sure to get me in trouble, I'm sure. But anyway, yeah, take a look at the designs, and people have been buying shirts. So thank you for buying the shirts. We really appreciate it. Producer Carrie really appreciates it. And is she wearing one now? No, she's not wearing one now, but she does. She wears them around. So there it is.
I wanted to say that Mike Adams of Brighteon somehow has a science background because he does the health stuff, health ranger type stuff. And he has a mass spectrometer, and they're actually looking at these clots now and seeing if there is a von Willebrand factor involved. And what they think is happening is it's chelating, meaning these loose metal ions that are going through your bloodstream, they get entrapped and making it just ball up and create these von Willebrand clots. And so Mike Adams is working on this right now with a mass spectrometer. So this is not speculation. This is not theory. The mass spec will actually weigh everything in a sample and tell you exactly what's in it. And he's seeing a lot of metals, and you get too many metals in your
Right, and that would dovetail with all of the other metal stories that were going out when these vaccines were being deployed, right? I'm not even going to talk about them because they get you kicked off, but
you can buy the books. You can go to my Substack and get my new stuff for free, okay? But you can buy the older books that are going to be bound because a lot of people like those airplane books. This is 130 pages. Most of my books are between 42 and 99 pages because there's a price break with Amazon, so you can get it cheaper. But they're going to be on Addy Adds a website or Amazon site, and I'm going to be the co-author. So they're sold worldwide. So we're going to get over the problem of we're going to get back in Europe with all this Amazon stuff. So it's going to be great. Australia as well. Yeah.
Well, that's fantastic. I'm glad that you guys are the dynamic duo again. And are we going to do this again on Thursday?
Yes. That's when the hearing is in Florida. I hope to be there, and then we can talk about that. And I think we should follow up on these things that we're bringing up, because I have really, really smart people that have very high-end PCR patents, like Gary Mullis level patents, telling me this stuff, and are work with, Pulitzer Prize winners, telling me this stuff. I'm not just coming up with this and, oh, this sounds fun. No, they're saying it, and I'd like to bring them on at some point as well.
Well, let me know, and we'll rig it up.
Okay.
All
Thanks,
right.
Peter.
All right. And till Thursday. We'll see you then. Bye, everybody.